New York State's governor, attorney general, and head of the Department of Motor Vehicles over New York sanctuary city laws, which limit and forbid state law enforcement to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement.
New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Bondi says other sanctuary states are next. At the White House today, President Trump talking about 2 phone calls aimed at negotiating an end to the war in Ukraine, one with President Putin and the other with Ukraine's President Zelensky. Trump says he agrees with Putin's position that Ukraine will not get Crimea back from Russia and will not be allowed to join NATO. The prisoner swap that saw Russia's release Tuesday of American schoolteacher Mark Fogel today saw Russian crypto criminal Alexander Venik released by the United States. This is ABC News. A volcano in Hawaii is active again.
Kilauea, which has been erupting sporadically for the last couple of months, is once again spewing lava, shooting it up into the air. Kilauea is one of the world's most active volcanoes. This time it's mainly only a show. No homes are in danger. Lava flow is on the floor of a crater, but a vent shot lava about 330 feet into the air. It's the 9th eruptive episode since December 23rd. The site has visitors gathering now at Volcanoes National Park to get a glimpse. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Fish among the 14 nominees up for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That band among 8 groups have never been on the ballot before. Outkast also included for the first time. Other nominees include Mariah Carey, Chubby Checker, and the White Stripes. An international panel now selects the inductees. They'll be revealed in April. Dave Packer, ABC News.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Gorvin.
And the hits just keep coming, folks, right here on WSN, the Common Sense Conservatives. The Trumpster wins, the Trumpster wins. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. My hands go up and they stay there, and they stay there. Ladies and gentlemen, news breaking, New York is going to feel the wrath of a genuine Justice Department. You heard that at the top of the hour as the Justice Department sues New York State, Governor Hochul, and a host of other corrupt New York officials over their breaking federal code in providing sanctuary cities. This is about time. It's long overdue. Welcome back to the broadcast every Wednesday night right here at WSM, and with my co-host in East Tennessee, none other than Todd McKinley, our NCO extraordinaire, retired from the United States Army, and that makes him good in my book, an Army veteran.
That's right.
And then we've got John Grover in the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire. John, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, Chris. Doing well. Same old thing up here in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Oh, all you do is win, 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 no matter what.
Absolutely. Ever since Trump's been in office, we're winning. You know, New Hampshire just passed a bill, I believe, that Kelly just signed it in, canceling sanctuary cities throughout the state. Can't have them anymore. All done.
Just in time to avoid a federal lawsuit.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Harboring illegals and stuff is supposed to be a felony offense according to Title 18 codes, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct, and it is a 5-year felony conviction for each count. So, just like mail fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride tonight. We were planning on having a guest tonight, but he's not able to make it. Perhaps we'll have him next week or the week after. It's Representative Brian, what's his name?
Yeah, Brian Harris out of Texas. Yeah.
10th Congressional District there in Texas. Or legislative district.
Legislative district, correct. Yeah, he'd been the HHS chief of staff during the first Trump administration. Had ran for Congress whenever it was a special election. The previous congressman passed away, and of course the spouse ran and got the special election. But he got the consolation prize of a state house seat, which I think he's building himself up to perhaps maybe serve in Congress in the future, or who knows at the state level. So the future's bright for him.
Well, neither you or I won our race. Maybe we should follow his lead, move to Texas and run. Just saying.
Right. I don't get some places. And of course, people that have served in, say, at one administration or another, whenever you leave that administration, you have a short window where you could strike with the irons hot, if you will. You can get endorsements from Trump or whatever. During that particular election, Trump did not endorse. I don't think he endorsed anybody, or if he did, he endorsed the wife, the previous congressman, and it was one of those things. But of course, Brian got the consolation prize again. It was an endorsement for a state house seat, so it worked out.
No, that's pretty awesome and well done on his part. We'll get him on as a guest coming up, but that's who we're planning on having tonight. But events sometimes interfere with that, but that's fine. There's a lot to talk about tonight. We've got tons to talk about, and let's just get right into this one here. So, Todd, what are your thoughts here? Is it about time? Do you think something's going to come of this? Will we have success? The Department of Justice announcing a lawsuit against New York, the state, Governor Hochul, and State Attorney General, none other than Letitia James, who ran for office with one campaign issue: I will get Donald Trump. Remember that? What are your thoughts on that one?
Here's the thing. I don't want to try to paint a rosy picture, if you will, because a lot of times these things usually get thrown out, or they drop charges, or they plead to some nonsense that's much less. It's a slap on the wrist, if anything happens at all. So I'm optimistic, but I'm hoping that this is the Justice Department that we finally deserve, and they will go after these abominations that hold public office and basically to betray the public trust. Hopefully that's what happens.
Well, I hope so too. John, this is what Attorney General Pam Bondi had to say. This is a new DOJ. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Yes.
John?
Absolutely, man. Love it. I want to see some heads roll. You know what I mean? They broke laws. They've defrauded the American people. My voice is weird tonight.
Yeah, it's despairing on you there.
I've got a frog in my throat. Anyway, they defraud the American people, and it's time for justice to prevail.
Yeah, well, they as she said, Bondi said they turned. As you know, we sued Illinois. New York didn't listen, so now you're next.
That's it.
Last week, the Justice Department asked the federal judge to immediately strike down sanctuary policies in Illinois and Chicago, arguing that state and local officials are an obstacle to the federal government's enforcement of the immigration laws and discriminate against federal immigration enforcement. And they ignore the supremacy clause of the Constitution, and they do so at their own peril. And I hope this is just the beginning of a long list of these treasonous people who pay a price. And they cannot hide behind qualified immunity for this one. So Governor Hochul and Letitia James will find themselves personally liable here. That's going to be some exciting stuff to see what happens. I know, Todd, you're urging caution, but I'm not cautiously. I'm enthusiastically optimistic.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they go after them for sure. But you know how the courts are, and you know how people kind of lose their nerve, and we've seen it time and time again where things just kind of get pled down, it gets thrown out, and all that stuff. So I'm hoping something gets done, but again, if it doesn't, I'm not going to have my my hopes dashed, if you will.
Well, I get where you're coming from. I just watched almost to the finish the Netflix special on O.J. Simpson. And yeah, talk about jumps in the criminal justice system there.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, the guy's guilty, watching that FX series, you know, he's guilty, it's Cuba Gooding Jr., but you're like, that guy's guilty right there. That's OJ. And all of a sudden he gets off in the end, even though you watched the original court case play out on live TV, back in the 90s, here we are all over again. And I hope we don't have that whenever it comes to these particular cases.
The thing about that case is law enforcement contaminated their own case.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the issue with that case.
yeah. I'm not trying to get into the whole what happened there. Yeah, we get that, but I'm just saying.
No,
You
I
know,
was alluding to the idea that Pam Bondi's got her act together.
Oh,
and I think when they do
yeah,
something, they're
yeah.
gonna put it together.
I agree. I agree.
They're going to dot their I's and cross their T's. That's going to happen here. I mean, she, you know, it's not like she's unknown. She was in Florida, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm hoping this isn't bluster. You know, we've seen it before, time and time again. Release the Kraken. We have the memo. We have the laptop. We have all this stuff, and yet we've seen none of it in all reality. And I get it. It was the previous administration that held on to a lot of that stuff, made a lot of it disappear, and of course destroyed a lot of that. You know, if you go to the January 6th, I know that's not the previous administration, but the previous Congress, the January 6th, committee, they destroyed a lot of evidence, and stuff just kind of walks away whenever it comes to, say, Capitol Hill and Washington D.C., the FBI, DOJ. If people are friendly within those systems, stuff walks away, especially whenever they say, "Oh, this is a political prosecution," which in this case with Pam Bondi, I know that not to be the true. It's not a political prosecution. This is legitimate. Let's go after them. Don't let them off the hook. Not one bit.
Didn't Fonnie Willis also get herself on the hook? I forget what the case situation was, but
she should.
Well, she's in trouble.
She's in a lot of trouble,
Georgia,
right
not federally, but in Georgia, she's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But look, I'm actually, you know, very optimistic about this in some respects because we've never seen any accountability whatsoever for any of this nonsense. We've seen the sanctuary city nonsense and sanctuary states. Maryland issues driver's license to criminal alien invaders. Who does that? And of course, Maryland is where the young lady was raped and murdered in Frederick, just down here by an illegal alien who broke into her home. And then also the other one up there in northeast Maryland near Hartford. It's a victim of these criminal aliens who broke into this country. And we're all victims because every one of them comes in here and takes a job and depresses wages, harms mostly lower income and mostly Black and Latino Americans.
I think Pennsylvania was giving out those driver's license to illegal immigrants too.
Not to my knowledge. If it's true, then I'm going to be standing in the State House tomorrow. Because I'm not going to tolerate that.
Yeah, I think if you check it out, I believe they were, because it was a concern during the election year that they were issuing driver's licenses and also registering people to vote at the same time.
Yeah, is Pennsylvania a motor voter registration?
It is, but you can't get a license without a birth certificate, and so and you have to have your. So I don't. That's odd to me, but it is a motor voter. That's how I registered to vote. Because remember, I was active duty when I retired from the Army War College in 2019, and I retired in October. So you technically have to have 60 days residence in order to, to vote in a state or have to have a driver's license. October 1st, November's a month later, I was living here. Of course, I've been living here for a few years, but you have military, the Soldier and Sailors Relief Act. I'm not a resident of Pennsylvania, I'm a resident of my home state, Ohio. So I was voting in Ohio. I voted in 2019 in Ohio once again. And then I went and got my driver's license in November or December. And since then I voted in Pennsylvania. And when I went, it's piece of cake. You do it all right there. Piece of cake. So yeah, no, look, I'm optimistic that we're going to see something here. There really is a new sheriff in town. And I think the proof in the pudding is what we're seeing here is that, homie, don't play that. Trump isn't taking any prisoners. And, they come out with him with everything. And he knows he's going to face the lawsuits. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this program last week because guys, I'm getting 15-minute cat naps since about January 8th. I haven't slept more than 3 hours straight since then. Trump and South Africa have kept me up all hours of the day. I've been streaming 6 to 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours a day. It's just crazy. So I tell you, it's really wearing me out here. But I am optimistic that we're going to get somewhere this time because Trump is taking no prisoners. And you can see it everywhere in everything. I said on other programs that I strongly believe that the Trump administration had a playbook, at least for the first 90 days. And every single action we're seeing unfold is coming off day 12, day 13, day 14, day 15. We're going to do this executive order. We're going to take this action. We're going to do this. We're going to make this threat here. We're going to raise this issue of tariffs here. This is exactly unfolding the way I expected. The only thing that came out of the blue on a date I didn't expect from my perspective was the executive order with South Africa suspending aid. But that's because their president was rude and didn't tell President Trump in their congratulatory phone call that he was going to sign a piece of legislation that's basically allowed him to steal private property. So Trump was angry, and so he waited. They didn't respond, and they make him pay. But I think it's all coming out of a playbook there, John. They've got a binder, and it's day 26. And what's tomorrow, guys?
Yeah. What's on that page? And how many different sections do they have on each day? It's like, day 25. You have this at this point.
Well,
at noon you need to do this.
I
Mr.
hope
President.
exactly. I hope they have a section in each day that flip this tab to the things that really piss off the liberal left.
Yes, thank you. I love it.
That there should be a box in every page.
Exactly.
For that, right?
No, there's going to be day 15. We're going to tell people we're going to take over Gaza.
Yeah, and there has to be a guy in the corner of one of these offices or over on the side of the Oval Office. I know there's no corner that has the mustache that goes, yes. I love it.
That's Natasha. Oh, gosh. Oh, what's that dog? That dog. What is that? I can't remember the dog's name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. Yeah, that was Boris and Natasha, and the dog he used to laugh. It's so funny. Yeah, boy, taking you back there. Next thing you know, we'll start reciting Schoolhouse Rock. But look, so John, why is it that these people on the left? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but why do they always look like rejects that nobody wanted to hang out with in school? I mean, I wasn't exactly the top jock or the most popular, but these people all look like they would have even been rejected by the chess club. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy.
I don't know what the hardware in the face is. A few people, conservatives, that like to pin their face full of metal, but I don't understand it. It's a weird look to me. But I'm an Xer. I grew up at a different time period, so I don't know.
Well, the reason I asked that, John, is that I asked you to load up this incredible rendition of some stirring song that these leftists have put out there in their anger at the Trump administration. Have you got it handy, and will we be able to hear it?
I do. You will. I'm just going to forewarn listeners that this is torture to listen to.
What I'm going to do, John, is at some point I'm going to say enough. My ears are bleeding. But
you're going to have to wave. You can't even wave at me because when I play it, it's going to play video and audio, and it's going to mute your microphone out. So you have to go to private chat and say enough. But
okay,
we'll get up to maybe 60 seconds if we're lucky.
The board might ring with people begging you to turn it off, but I will send you a private chat at some point. It's 2 minutes long, folks. Don't leave. But this is caterwauling of the worst type you're ever going to hear. So here we go. Thanks, John.
Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight against George. We'll fight Elon Musk. No Elon's kept within our walls. We'll fight from dawn to dusk. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Trump's coming for our unions. He wants us all to fail. He wants us to bow to him, but we want him in jail. Oh, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me. Which side are you?
Oh, dear God. Which side are you on? Not that one. I'm not on that side. Todd?
No. Psychotic.
Actually, I got to point something out here. They're so stupid they don't realize. They're talking about Trump's trying to kill the unions. They don't realize the tariffs themselves is meant to bring domestic growth.
It's protect jobs.
It's actually going to protect the unions. It's going to be the best thing. It's going to increase the value of labor.
Yeah. They don't care in the truth, John. The truth is a commodity that they trade away for their nonsense. But I mean, it's ridiculous. Yes, I'm not in favor of tariffs. I'm a free trade person, but I get the value of using them as a bargaining tool. They're working great work. I mean, let's just look at the results. Trudeau is going to resign because Trump threatened tariffs. Mexico refused to take their nationals back, and then they decided to take it back when they were threatened with tariffs. And when Trump was serious about it, then they decided to move 10,000 Mexican National Guard troops to the border, start patrolling the border. Canada agreed to spend 600 million Canadian dollars, which is like 35 US dollars. I mean, to actually put border sniffing dogs to look for drugs and more guards and more border posts over a 10-year period, but it's not enough. Colombia approved our flights to take these people, repatriate them back down, these criminals, these pedos and the murderers, rapists. And then the president thought he could play hardball with Trump and says, send them back. Trump is on a golf course at Doral. He pulls out his mobile phone, says 25% tariffs, visas for diplomats revoked, no nationals come in the country. And if it doesn't change next week, it's 50%. Within an hour, they back down. Trump says, hey, we're going to take over Gaza. Suddenly people want to talk about peace in Gaza. Well, we got to come up with a different plan. Trump can't take over Gaza. Maybe Jordan can take some of Palestinians. And Panama, well, if you don't get the Chinese out, we're going to put tariffs on you. Well, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative is over in Panama. Greenland, we're going to annex Greenland, or we're going to put tariffs on Denmark because they're not providing enough security. Well, Denmark just agreed to $1 billion in additional security upgrades and patrolling and naval vessels they're buying for patrolling the Arctic around Greenland. It works. But the tariff, I tell you, Ed, oh boy, the Trumpster knows what he's doing. It's working here in every case. I'm not a fan of tariffs, but tariffs do protect union jobs, at least in the initial stages of it. Long term, they're costly, but they keep jobs from disappearing right away. And these people are too stupid, John. You're spot on. They don't get it. They have no concept what it's about. They're just malcontents.
Well, they do whatever their party tells them. That's what it comes down to. The Brookings Institute is in charge of their minds.
Well, that makes sense to me. What do you think about that, Todd?
Yeah, it seems to be that they get their marching orders from somebody else. And I don't know if you've ever been somewhere, DC or wherever, and actually tried to have a discussion with these people. It's irrational, and it doesn't make sense. And I remember at the inauguration of Donald Trump, the 2017, I had worked the inauguration, finished doing what I had to do. I went back to my hotel, showered, cleaned up, was getting ready to go meet some folks and go to a couple other things. On the way to this other place I was going to, this lady had fallen down. Sidewalks are craggly in some places. And her friends, they all had the pink hats on, I'm talking about. And they were just sitting there kind of didn't know how to help this lady. So I went over and immediately was able to render, aid. And I was like, okay, have you called an ambulance? Have you called 911? Oh, well, we didn't know if we should. I'm like, well, let's ask her, let's do a little triage. How are you feeling? Did you hit your head? All this stuff. And it got to the point where she had a minor concussion. I said, okay, I think maybe you should call 911. She can't get up. Here's the cross streets. I said, stand right here. That way you can wave them into where you're at. And got them there, no problem. And they're like, well, we really appreciate, really nice young man, this and that. I said, yeah, just got back from working the Trump inauguration. All of a sudden, I was the worst person ever in that moment.
Irrational people. They're not.
Yeah.
They're lucid, but they're some silent lucidity, except they like to scream. Now, look, I mean, it looks like a collection of people escaped from a mental institution. That's what that group of people look like singing. You guys saw
Send
it
them
on
back.
the screen.
Send them back.
Goodness.
I was thinking, having heard that maybe Trump ought to require that as long as he's going to have the Department of Education, that all students are given lessons in singing. So in the future, when they want to protest at the podium,
it's
not so painful for the rest of us.
I'd much rather argue for two things: the reintroduction of civics in American government in our public school system,
absolutely,
and financial literacy in our high schools. That's the two things I'd argue for. That would make this country so much better.
I'm really not arguing for that. I just thought.
I know. I'm just having a little fun there. But look, guys, I'm just giddy about Kathy Hochul and Letitia James are going to have to go to court, and they're going to have to. I can't wait to see them drug into court. I may cover that live just to giggle and laugh and eat the popcorn while it goes down, because it couldn't happen to two nicer clowns,
Yeah, and the DOJ, they're not going to give up. I hope they're going to hound these people. And here's the thing: you can't have a friendly state judge try to throw this out. This is federal, And good luck finding a federal judge who's going to be on your side to throw this out. I don't think so. You probably have a few things tossed, but for the most part, a lot of this is going to be heard one way or another, and it should be.
Well, and the thing about the Justice Department is that Tom Homan has said that there's leaks and they keep endangering the lives of federal law enforcement officials, the public at large, because someone somewhere in the government has been tipping off these Trinidad gangs that the raids are coming and others where they're going to make raids. And they believe the leak is in the FBI. And gosh help the people that are doing this, because they are going to go to jail.
I think they found somebody that was leaking. I think they've already apprehended one person.
Good. All right, well, good. I hope they spend the next dozen years in prison where they belong, because I would like to charge them with treason, but that's almost impossible to prove. So good luck with that one. But, as I said, the hits just keep coming. The victories keep coming for the Trump administration. A federal judge has ruled that the Trump administration can proceed with the buyout plan they announced last week for federal employees. They had put a hold on it, and now it's back. Massachusetts Judge George O'Toole had an order that said the plaintiffs lack standing and the court does not have subject matter jurisdiction over their claims. So this is done and dusted, and they'll move forward with the buyouts. That's pretty exciting stuff there.
There you go, man. Clean it
Yeah,
up.
I love it.
They are coming after him with the OIG. I don't know if he followed exact protocols on that, but I guess they're trying to sue to get back in there, saying that he terminated their positions
illegally,
wrongfully, because they were supposed to give 30-day notice to Congress first, so the Congress can dispute it, do their processes first.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a simple solution. Come on back into work. Your last day is 30 days from tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not like they stopped paying them. I mean, they were still getting paid.
Right.
They were just on leave. So.
Hey, he can put them on leave, right?
To me, you've not terminated a position if you're still getting a check.
And
there is a clause in that law that if for just cause, so if he feels like, say, they're undermining his authority, or they're like Chris said, leaking out information or doing something that's erroneous or deceitful or whatever, then he doesn't have to go through Congress. He can terminate him, but I guess it's still the process goes through Congress. But as you said, he can put him on leave and remove.
Yeah. Well, if it's if legislation was used to set up the organization, then you have to go through Congress and legislation to be able to get rid of it. If it's something like, say, the Peace Corps, like the Colonel alluded to last time, that was set up just within the executive branch, funded that way, the president can get rid of it, just basically by signing a piece of paper, essentially.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens there. But when it comes to the inspectors general, there were 17, if I recall, that were sacked. Only 8 have joined the lawsuit. So the others probably realize this is a fruitless effort. They just don't want to be involved in it, or they've already been hired by some left-wing, outfit somewhere making 6 figures and they don't care.
So Todd, did you just say that the president can create an office without Congress?
Yes.
Within certain parameters, they can. It cannot be like a cabinet level agency or department or something like that.
So when Obama created the United States Digital Service, because his website crashed, and decided that they need a better support team for websites and stuff like that for federal agencies, that was perfectly legal.
Yeah, I mean,
probably.
When Trump repurposed it into the United States Doge Service.
I see where you're
should
going
be the
with that.
same thing, right? So the left keeps wanting to gripe and complain, going, "Oh, but it's an illegal thing," and Elon Musk is unelected, and man, this
most people
is idiotic, because
most people in government are unelected, and there's only 2 elected people in the executive branch anyway. That's the president and vice president. So everybody is there. He's either appointed or a career official within the federal executive branch.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Funny they keep saying unelected bureaucrats. Yeah, that's all they are. But anyway, Trump has the right to appoint an advisor. And that's what he did with Elon Musk. So everything's on the table. It's legitimate, and their cries are they're dumb.
They're just tears of disbelief. They can't believe it. But John, I just have one question for you. Which side are you on?
Which side are
on?
I know which side I'm on. I'm on the winning team, bro.
Oh, that's right. And all we do is win, win, win. Listen, this is really exciting stuff. Another thing that happened today, of course, I think you guys know my view. I don't think she's qualified, but probably the worst cabinet nominee in my view, but that's just my view. Tulsi Gabbard was sworn in as the nation's top intelligence official as the director of national intelligence, an office created under the George Bush administration.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that one, Todd?
Well, I've been with you on that one. I like her in some of the ideas that she has, but she's not qualified to be at that level, especially you need to specialize skills for that particular job, I believe. And she just doesn't have them in the roles that she's had in the past. Certainly well qualified to do something else, but not that particular role. And that's where I'm at on that one.
So you're siding with the left, are you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm joking. You got good points in that, and
level-headed, right-wing opinion. So
that's why you have independent thought.
Once again, John, which side are you on?
Yes, John. Which side are you on?
Oh my goodness, we're gonna have fun with that one tonight. But yeah, it's just crazy, guys. I mean, it's every day, it's nonstop. I mean, by the time we finish this program, there'll be something new that's come out from the Trump administration. It's almost too crazy to believe, and the left just doesn't know what to do. I mean, they're going to bankrupt themselves, paying legal fees, taking all these cases to court. I mean, the government has endless pockets. That's what the Biden regime did to private citizens. They took them to court and buried these people in debt and bankrupted them till they took plea bargains and things like that, or threatened them with prison. But now the shoe's on the other foot. If they want to sue the government, they're going to have to spend millions and millions of dollars, and we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to go very well for the left this time around there, Todd.
No, I don't think so. And I think there's not enough judges for them to go judge shopping. I mean, they're going to run out of judges pretty quick. And it's going to get into actual real courts with real judges that's going to say, you know what, you have no standing. This is nonsense. Toss it out. Or they're going to lose millions of dollars, which I'm okay with on that. Spend your own money, lose your own money. Don't spend our taxpayers' dollars trying to fight these things.
Well, it's not just that. We're discovering that many of these judges are compromised. So Judge John Bates, his wife is funded by USAID.
Oh, well, there you go.
He's the judge that ordered the Trump admin to restore website information on gender ideology and sex change operations. His wife, Carol Reese, is the founder of Hope for Children in Ethiopia and has, for a very long time, received money from USAID. Talk about a conflict of interest.
In a big way. And here's the thing. Think about some of these judges and stuff that they try to roll on to tell a president or executive branch agency they must do something with regards to a program. I'm sorry. It's up to the executive branch agency, the department heads, the agency heads, the president ultimately to decide the direction of these agencies and departments as long as it's constitutional and legal. No judge can sit there and say you need to institute this type of program or reaffirm it or whatever. You can get rid of it all day long if you want to. I mean, it should adhere to the laws of the land and, of course, the policies set forth by the administration.
Well, it's exactly what it has to be. And that's one of the challenges going right now. There's a little bit of wiggle room for some things, at least the left thinks they have it, because some of these things, they are part of the law, this year's budget. And so they're a matter of law. So you have to spend the money unless there's a legitimate reason to stop it. And that's the argument that the Trump administration is making for some of the things that really might require congressional oversight. So, I mean, that's just kind of the situation there. Hey, let me shift gears a little bit here to a part of the world that I know, and some of my viewers are currently watching us on social media. One of my viewers said that Pam Bondi can use RICO. In fact, I think she should use the RICO statute for racketeering practices to go after some of these people. That's how we broke the mob in New York. But this came out on the 7th, and this is very exciting stuff. Of course, the 7th was Friday night, and addressing egregious actions of the Republic of South Africa, gentlemen. And it's amazing because this executive order did two things. It identified that the Republic of South Africa is acting against the United States interests, also violating its own constitution, and it's siding with Hamas and South Africa over Israel. Also, it's talking about Iran developing commercial, military, and nuclear arrangements with South Africa. And the two things that came out of this is that the U.S. has ceased all foreign assistance to South Africa. Now, there's an exemption for the PEPFAR, the HIV, the AIDS money, because that's already allocated by law this year. So that will continue at the end of this year under humanitarian waiver, which was already issued when Trump froze foreign aid. But after this year, there'll be no more money for South Africa. And the other thing is that he offered a resettlement program for the refugee program, which he suspended on the 20th of January. He opened it up to South Africans who are suffering from racial oppression or the fear of that. And that's got the South African government going bat crap crazy. They're accusing America of intruding in their internal affairs, of threatening and bullying. And all we've done is said, gravy train's over. We don't have any money. We're not giving you $500 million a year for free anymore. And, we recognize that you abuse some of your citizens. So like people in Myanmar and Afghanistan and Syria and Jordan and Venezuela and Haiti, we're going to let them in under the refugee program. And they are losing their mind in South Africa. It's amazing what the Trumpster does.
It's kind of funny when it's kind of the United Nations. They always like to point out about inhumanities in the globe and all this other stuff. And when it's happening over there, nobody paid them any mind. Why? They turn a blind eye. Anywhere in Africa, it seems like when there's genocide or something going on that's violation of human rights, they just don't seem to see it.
Well, especially in this case, it's ironic because the National Party had fewer racist laws than the current government of the African National Congress, which is viewed illegitimately by people in the West and the United States, liberals and conservatives, for past 3 decades as the Rainbow Nation, a great, reconciliation, the end of apartheid and racial segregation. Well, this government has done it even worse than the previous government, and it's been ignored by the world. I've been, on the rooftop shouting about this for years, and finally people are taking notice of it. But I do find it interesting that suddenly we have lots of subject matter experts on South Africa all over social media, usual suspects. And when I see how wrong they are about South Africa, and it undermines all their credibility and almost everything else they talk about. I'm talking, some of the big names, I won't mention them. But anyway, so that happened Friday night. And since then, it just keeps on going. By the way, did you guys celebrate Golf America Day on Sunday? It was Golf America Day. Yes.
I did not. No, but it's funny as you're talking about, South Africa. I was doing some cleaning this weekend. Had my Fox News on, clicking through different stuff, YouTube and all this. Got to one point where they were talking about Elon Musk, and they tried to tie him to apartheid again. And I'm like, are we kidding? The guy was probably a young kid when apartheid was ending. I'm like, and then you're going to try to tie him to this, and they're like, oh, his family was big in supporting it, and he got rich because of apartheid. I'm like, I don't think so. I think he got rich because of an app that he helped create in the United States called PayPal. Yeah, not. I mean, well, his family was probably fairly wealthy, given where he was from, etc. But he wasn't nowhere near the world's richest man of about $300+ billion, maybe a few $100,000, maybe it combined. But you're going to sit there and say he benefited from apartheid. I'm sorry. He was a kid in the 1980s. Move on from that BS.
Well, it's ludicrous because they're trying to tie him, and you should see this. What they do is they go, it's all part of a secret cabal. There's actually someone with a theory out there. Yes, this whole thing, it's the Nazis, Elon Musk, and the founders of PayPal. You see, one founder of PayPal came from Germany. Therefore, Peter Thiel, he must be a Nazi too because he's German. And then the other guy is from South Africa, and his family are descended from the Boers who fought in the Boer War and had the diamond fields 120 years ago. So obviously, they must be benefiting from him fighting a war in which his family was locked up in a concentration camp and their children died. And that somehow give them privileged elite stuff. It all comes together and it's all part of a part. Oh my goodness. They actually, these people they're doing hallucinogenics. There must be a big market for LSD at the moment because these people are clearly on something. It's insane.
What the beautiful Kumbaya song that they were singing, right? Which side are you on? I mean, they had to be on something to come up with that. I mean, it was absolutely psychotic.
It is. I mean, look, now I know why everybody was upset when Reagan emptied the institutions back in the 80s.
Because now they're out voting and holding public office. My goodness,
Exactly.
Reagan.
Well, he also gave us 5 million little aliens, gave them residency. That also happened under Reagan. And he doubled the rate of Social Security. Wait a second. Suddenly the Reagan thing isn't looking so rosy. No.
No, that was more than just Reagan, though, wasn't it? There was something behind that.
No, Congress, because Social Security was going to run out of money by the 1990s. And so they doubled the rate of taxation and they extended the age for retirement for people born after a certain date. And they created the so-called lockbox, which was fictional. It never existed. It's just all a bunch of nonsense. They've been pilfering the money from day one. They put it right in the general treasury and they spend it. So in 2000, they like to crow that Bill Clinton had a balanced budget. Yeah, he didn't have a balanced budget. They stole $330 or $78 billion surplus that year from Social Security, and they put it in the general treasury, and then they spent half of it. They had like $170 billion left over, and they go, oh, look, we balanced the budget. I can't take money from my savings account to put in my checking account and say, hey, look, I got a balanced budget because now my savings account is empty. It doesn't work that way. But up to this day, you've got Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton and Republicans, Democrats claiming that they balanced the budget and that George Bush squandered it all. It's just ludicrous. We have not had a legitimate balanced budget at the federal level since 1971 under Richard Nixon, of all people. We had like a 34 million or something like that surplus. The last time we had a surplus budget.
Yeah. You had a budget that was fractions of what it is now. I mean, just percentage points, maybe 3 or 4 percentage points to compare to what we have now, $4 and $5 trillion budgets. I'm like, come on. That was like a decade plus, back in the 60s and 70s, what you could spend. Probably 2 or 3 decades from back then.
Well, Todd, I mean, what we spend today is exponentially, not arithmetically, but exponentially larger than what we spent just 2 decades ago. In the year 2000, the federal budget was $1.8 trillion. Last year it was 7.4 trillion, and 2 trillion of that was deficit spending, which means the deficit last year was larger than the entire federal budget 2.5 decades ago. Now, I ask people, as I've said before in this program, are you getting 400% better government? Are you getting 4% more government? Are you getting quicker resolution to your issues?
No.
If you're a veteran, are you getting better care at VA hospitals? We're not. And people go, Chris, that's inflation. No, it's not inflation. We're spending money like drunken sailors. And here's the other thing. Okay, I'm going to segue to this, guys, because this one's driving me nuts too. So the left is freaking out. Elon Musk has access to all the treasury data. Okay, what are you accusing of Elon Musk of using it for nefarious purposes? They don't do that. Are you claiming he's going to use it like, monetize that for his advantage, like for Twitter or something like that? They're not accusing him of that. But where was this worry and concern, Todd, when the Office of Budget and Management and Budget compromise your security dossier, my security dossier, 21 million veterans and federal employees with sensitive personal information, our social security numbers, every residence we live in, every phone number, our siblings, divorces, children, anytime we've been accused of something, whether it's true or not, and no matter how salacious it was, it's all in a file, it's all in a dossier. And for 18 months, the Chinese were inside that system every day, taking data, they're copying data, messing with other people's data, and they didn't even know it. And there was never any outrage from these leftists. They weren't knocking on the door of OMB to go, why did you compromise our military? Why did you compromise our civilian? No, these are people who are frauds. Every one of them standing outside the Department of Education, berating a security guard who's doing his job. Maxine Waters, that is a woman. If anyone needs to be institutionalized, we could start with her. My goodness.
Right. Absolutely. Here's the thing. You're legislative branch personnel on official duty coming to the executive branch property. You don't have a right to just walk in. If you have an appointment, the guy said you could go in. They didn't have an appointment. They were there just to basically raise hell and occupy a building they had no business being in. Also, there was no cabinet secretary that's been confirmed yet, or at least up to that point. And so there was nobody there to have a meeting with. So why are you here? And then the people were like, we were just here last week. We had a meeting. It's like you had a meeting last week with somebody that was scheduled. You didn't have a meeting that day, so you have no right to just show up and walk around. You know, just because I'm a taxpayer and a member of the public, I can't just walk around just because I show up. They may let me in the building and go up to the security checkpoint. Who are you here to see? I just wanted to look around. Sorry, go back outside to the sidewalk. That's it.
As a member of the public, try to just walk into the Capitol building and see how quickly you get turned away.
Precisely.
I had to be escorted through the tunnels.
You have to
last
have a
time I was in
clearance.
DC.
You have to have clearance. You have to have approval for the visit. You have to have a badge for access, and you get escorted in the building. Yeah, there's no such thing as wandering around. Yeah, and exactly right. The Department of Education is executive branch function. They are members of Congress. They have no right whatsoever to go in there. Now they have an oversight right, but you schedule that. You
Exactly.
set something up, or you summoned the educational department officials to Congress to testify before you. That's why I have this kabuki theater all the time,
Right.
these testimonies. But you have no right to enter an executive branch building, and this is the people's building. No, it's not. It's executive branch's building, whereas the Congress is actually our building. It's
Correct.
the people's. Yeah, the Capitol building is the people's building, and that one is more tightly controlled than any of these. So these people are just fools.
The actual silliness behind this is they were trying to put on a show to make Trump look bad. So they were trying to make themselves, grandstand and make Trump look bad. But I think it blew up in their face.
And that's what they did. And of course, this guy that was, like you said, a security guard or whoever who was tasked to go out there, here they are basically trying to divulge this guy's personal information. He showed them the ID card once. What they want to do is flash it on a screen so everybody can basically go hound this guy wherever he lives, personally attack him and put his life in danger is essentially what they wanted to do in that moment. There's the guy doing his job, providing security or whatever the case may be, whether he was active security. Of course, they accused him of being a Doge employee and an Elon Musk stooge, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody knows who this person was. I don't really care whether he was security or whether he was just a staff member tasked to go out there and tell them, sorry, you don't have an appointment, you can't come in. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be sitting there trying to get in this guy's face. You should sit there. You make your point. Hey, we're here to see somebody. They don't want us to be here. Let them know we showed up. They can get back with us. Here's my number. Have them call me. I'm a member of Congress. Leave it at that. Move on. Don't sit there and grandstand for an hour, 2 hours, and make fools of yourself any more than you've already done.
Well, it's just like the OJ trial. It was all for the cameras. Everything was done for the cameras. It's all playing for the cameras. It's just, and it's pathetic. They're that side. Look, the hill they want to die on is, well, it's wrong to not have foreign aid. I'm sorry. People are living in tents in North Carolina 5 months after a freaking hurricane went through there. People in Hawaii still living in freaking temporary shelters from a fire that took place out there because the government is useless at helping these people. But it's look, and there's the latest. While we're sitting here, not Bill Kristol, but Nicholas Kristof, the former New York Times columnist, goes on to MSNBC, of course, and slams Trump and Musk over the canceling USAID and breaks down why condoms must be sent abroad. Really? We need to send condoms abroad? No, no. What are you going to tell us that people are going to come over here and give us HIV? It's stupid. And look, I mean, these people. If that's the hill you want to die on, you really. By the way. The popularity of what Trump is doing for this is well beyond 60%. It's like removing criminal alien invaders. Over 70% of people in polls favor this. I mean, if you get over 70%, that is an overwhelming, resounding. I remember George Herbert Walker Bush. Remember what his approval rating was at the end of the Gulf War? No president's ever had this.
It was like 80-some%. It was the
89%.
Yeah, massive.
You never get that. And then he squandered that and lost an election.
Quickly. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have somebody here. Pablo, probably one of your listeners. He says talks about the Afrikaners refugee plan, Trump's plan. I've not heard about it or anything like that. I'm sure you probably have an idea about what he's talking about here.
Well, he wants me to ask both of you your opinion of it, and that's why I didn't do it, because I'm sure neither of you know anything about the program.
No, but let's well, I'd love to hear something about it, because I know it touches on your audience.
Well, I can share it with everyone hearing, food folks in New Hampshire and around the world who are listening to this program tonight. President Trump signed executive order. In that executive order, he identified, and I've got it right here. I'll read from it so we don't get anything mistaken.
Got it.
Now, I have a little bit of a problem with this executive order. I would have done it differently, but I'm not the president of the United States, so my opinion really doesn't matter on this issue. But he says, in a shocking disregard of its citizens' rights, the Republic of South Africa recently enacted expropriation to enable the government of South Africa to seize ethnic minority Afrikaners' agricultural property without compensation. Actually, what the act does is allow the government to steal any property, including stocks, bonds, pension funds, cars, apartments, hotels, anything, any business you have, your intellectual property, your copyrighted material. They can take any of it in the public interest and give you nothing for it, nil compensation. He said this act follows countless government policies designed to dismantle equal opportunity in employment, education, and business, and hateful rhetoric and government actions fueling disproportionate violence against racially disfavored landowners. In addition, South Africa has taken aggressive positions towards the United States and its allies, including accusing Israel, but not Hamas, of genocide in the International Court of Justice, and reinvigorating its relations with Iran to develop commercial, military, and nuclear arrangements. Now, that's the purpose of what this executive order is. The policy is that the United States policy is that as long as South Africa continues these unjust and immoral practices that harm our nation, we will not provide aid or assistance to South Africa, which is $500 million a year, by the way. And the United States shall promote a resettlement of Afrikaner refugees escaping government-sponsored race-based discrimination. So Donald Trump, who froze the refugee resettlement program on January 20th, has just opened up by executive order the program to some people in South Africa who want to come here. And this has really upset the government of South Africa, who are making baseless claims about Trump. And they're circling the wagons, and they look like fools. And they keep irritating Trump. We haven't taken them out of preferential trade status, which we give them, 0 tariffs to bring their goods into the country.
Right.
We haven't declared any sanctions against them. But guess what's coming? You keep poking the bear, you keep swinging a bat at the line, and you're going to get mauled. That's what's coming. John, we are going to maul South Africa if they keep it up.
I've always wondered about South Africa, because they aligned themselves with BRICS. I'm thinking, what side of the fence are they sitting on? And so I guess that answers the question. They've kind of been leaning
straddling the fence, maybe. They're straddling it. I don't
know. They're not leaning. They're like the ski jumper going down that 90-meter jump at the Olympics. They're way out with their face over those skis. For the political left, they're huge friends of the Cubans, the Chinese communists, of the Tehran mullahs, and of course Russia as well. They have done, every time you turn around, they've done something that's contrary to U.S. national security interest, and they've been disrespectful and rude to us, despite our private diplomatic overtures to them. And then they accuse us of the very things that they've done. It's just beyond the pale. So, there's a new sheriff in town. You got away with this for the Clinton, the Bush, Obama, the Trump, the Biden administrations, but the game is up. The jig is up.
Yeah. Well, tell me about this idiot, Floyd Shambambu. Well, tell us about that. What's this moron popping off about wanting to be more like Cuba, crying out loud? Can you
you described him pretty well. He's an idiot.
All right, good. All right, I got it.
He was the number 2 in one of the malcontent parties known as the Economic Freedom Fighters. This is a party of leftists who believe in nationalization of basically all property. They want to be able to confiscate land with no compensation, because they feel, in a traditional African tradition, that the land should be held in common hold by the chief. And the chief decides who gets to use it. When you're out of favor with the chief, you're screwed. And they like that idea. So they want to abrogate private property rights. They want to nationalize the mines and take it back. And then they'll dole out the money because they know better than anyone else. The problem is they don't know better than anyone else. This party has been enmeshed in a huge banking fraud scandal that brought down a savings bank that defrauded and impoverished thousands of South Africans, black South Africans, mind you. Yeah, no, Floyd Shambambu is in the party. He left it, and he's now with another party, another malcontent party, formed by the former president, who is facing criminal trials for corruption in the arms deal from the late 1990s. He was accused of raping one of his best friend's daughters, who was like 30 years younger than him. She had HIV, and he said, it's okay. He said, okay, I couldn't get it because I took a shower afterwards.
So that doesn't work. But which side are you on here there, Colonel?
Well, I'm not on the EFF side. No, you got to do it right. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? No, I'm on not on the side of the EFF
Not
or
on that, no.
this other party called the MK party, which is Mkhonto we Sizwe. That is a phrase which means spear the nation. That was the name of the guerrilla group the African National Congress put into the bush, which had very little effect during the liberation era. Mkhonto we Sizwe, and for short, they're called MK. And so the MK party is a party built off the backs of that, although almost none of these people are actually veterans of the guerrilla campaign. And these two malcontent parties used to be part of the ruling ANC. They've hived away over the years from the ANC and in part contributed to its dropping from 69% of the electorate down to 40% over the last 20 years. People are very unhappy with the ANC, but they're also not so happy with the other parties, and it's a mess. But South Africa, they're not listening. They are tone deaf, and when the pain comes, they're going to miss out. They're going to miss it.
I would like to go back and answer Pablo's question and let him know this is a legal measure in which we're inviting people to migrate to the United States, and I'm all for it, especially when we know the repression or oppression that's happening in South Africa and the abuse that these people suffer. I mean, I'm aware of the stories about people owning farms and being slaughtered in their own farms and the government doing nothing about it.
The colonel's talked about that before too.
Oh yeah. And so no, I mean, they're trying to escape. This is actual persecution. If they're trying to escape persecution like this, that's what asylum
is right
for.
there.
Yes.
Well, but this is an asylum.
I'm having a hard time with the words today.
Not Assam, refugee resettlement. That's
refugee resettlement,
which is far more generous. Typically, refugee resettlement. So you've got four categories of people here. Let me just explain it for our listening audience and for you guys here. So you've got a migrant. A migrant is a legal person who's entered the country, typically on a temporary work visa for like picking grapes or cabbages, or they come here to work on farms as farm managers, things like that. That's a migrant visa. And those people go to California, to New Jersey and Silicon Valley, or to farms. And that's what they do. That's that one. That's a migrant. Oh, and the H-1B, that's also a migrant too. So that would fall in the category. So you have a migrant, then you have an immigrant. That's a person who says, hey, I want to be on the Team America. I want to move from Tajikistan to America. And they apply to come here with a visa and say, I intend to resettle there. And we interview them and go, nope, economic migrant. Next. Nope, economic migrant. Nope, oh, terrorist. Nope, next. And then we finally get one that says, okay, oh, you look like a good person. Why don't you come to America? They come here and they get nothing. They start from scratch. They get no job assistance, no placement. They just got to make it on their own. And that's an immigrant. And that's what a lot of people do. That's a hard road to hoe. So migrant, immigrant. Then you have asylum. An asylum seeker has to be somebody that's already in the country who is from a persecuted class or category of people for their political beliefs, religion, or faith, or sexuality, something like that, or an ethnic group. Give a good example of that. A member of the Soviet hockey team here in 1980, after they lost, afraid they might be persecuted going home, could have defected. They're in the country legally on a tour, and they seek political asylum. And asylum can also be because of violence. And so, boom, that's the third category. The fourth category, which comes into play here, is the refugee. The refugee is someone typically, but not exclusively, fleeing from a war zone.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they have nothing but the clothing on their back, and they don't even have identity documents. In this case, the U.S. government does all kinds of very generous things. We'll take those people who are nowhere near our country. We'll agree to take some of those refugees. We bring them to America at our expense normally. We settle them all over the country at our expense. We give them financial support and stipends for a year to help them get settled, give them job assistance. And unlike asylum seekers, they can work immediately. We encourage them to work. They're allowed to work immediately. And then within 1 year, they must apply for long-term or permanent refugee status. If they don't, they're sent back to the place they came from, because in theory, maybe the crisis is over. So that's the refugee. That's the program for the South Africans. It's incredibly generous. And it doesn't matter, because I've had people just inundate me. Guys, I've answered literally thousands of questions and over the same questions. I've had 37,000 people tune in asking me questions on a live stream on Friday night. It was insane. And so people are asking all these questions and like, well, yeah, but I'm an engineer. I'm like, I don't care if you're an engineer. Refugee project doesn't care. If you want to immigrate here, yeah, we want skills. You got to prove you got skills to come here. Well, I don't have $500,000 put in the bank. You don't need a penny to put in the bank. It's refugees.
It's not Australia though, you know.
Right. Okay. So, but I'm 80. They're not going to want me. It doesn't matter. We accept you as a burden out of our caring, giving hearts, and you can come here. And it doesn't. If you're 92 or 2, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your gender. We don't care. It doesn't matter your economic status. Your broom sweeper or a rocket scientist. It doesn't matter. If you are persecuted or you fear persecution, you can come here on this program. Now, the parameters for the program for South Africa have yet to be published, and people in South Africa are getting a little bit frustrated because it was announced Friday night. It's already Wednesday night. It's already Thursday in South Africa, and they still don't know. So hopefully we'll get some updates. Excuse me. hopefully get some updates on that sometime soon. But in the meantime, one thing I can tell you guys is my presence on the PooTube has really skyrocketed over the past 2 weeks as people have been tuning in left and right there. So anyway, that's a little bit about that, guys. It's for refugees.
Okay.
That's awesome stuff. I mean, that's exactly what it's for. And we're definitely, I can't speak for Todd, but I'm all for the right means,
Yeah, we're all about legal.
Yeah, legal and ethical and all that stuff.
And just, legal and
Yeah.
just, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of ethical, now this one, I had one of my viewers say, Chris, I thought you liked Trump because I questioned something President Trump did. President Trump is rescinding the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act or suspending it. Now, for those who don't know, that is a piece of legislation. I think it's been around since like 77. If you're an American business person and you want to do business in South Africa and they want to bribe to give you the mining rights or give you a piece of a mine, and you pay that bribe, you'll be prosecuted in U.S. court and convicted and sent to federal prison, even though the action happened elsewhere where the U.S. really doesn't have jurisdiction. But they do have jurisdiction over you. That's how they approach it. The Chinese don't do that, by and large. You go to Africa and bribe officials all day long. They expect that. And so we've been operating at a huge disadvantage because we're not allowed to do corrupt practices. Trump is suspending that. So ostensibly, you can be a crooked businessman and get the front line here. I don't know that I'm comfortable with it, but I understand why Trump is doing it. Well, I heard a telephone. What you got there, John? Any comments on that one? The Corrupt Practices Act?
No, I'm seeing, I'm having a hard time. I do not have chats. I don't know what it is about this computer in the studio, but it does not bring up chat. So I have to go to my phone and it's very tiny. And every time I try to move it to read it, it gives me the option to show it and covers it. And I'm like, well, but somebody was saying something about the Sudanese and
Afghan women I can't
having some of the same issues too. And no, I mean, that's what I said earlier. There are a lot of violations to human rights, to human beings in Africa, and it's always been overlooked, and it's ridiculous. And it's not like we can just go in there and knock heads and say, stop it. We just can't go around the world and just take over people's countries like an empire and tell them what to do.
But this refugee resettlement program is how we got people like Ilhan Omar in this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got to be careful. I mean, so I think what he's saying is that women in Afghanistan and Sudan are waiting at the doorstep. They're not, because the executive order doesn't apply to those two countries. It's exclusive to South Africa. And the
I
rest
think he means in hopes.
Yes, I get what he's getting at, but the rest of the refugee resettlement program was frozen on January 20th, which irritated the left. But they quickly moved on to the next problem, Doge, and they moved on to the next problem.
Always
firing federal workers. Moved on to the next problem. They're just reeling. They don't know what to do. They are absolutely lost.
They did have a hearing for Doge today. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
I saw part of it. It was boring as all get out, so I moved on.
The highly volatile and toxic Crockett was there, and she didn't even ask him a question. She just went off on a rant, and
that's what they
elevate herself.
Well, that's what they have to do. They go on these rants, and of course they use it to try to fundraise off of. That's all they have. They have no qualities. They have no real argument. They have no ethics, and of course they have no facts on their side. So it's about the rant. It's about getting the photo. They leave the hearing room, they get their fundraising, and that's it. Move on.
That's exactly what it is. Towards the end of it there, one of the Republicans said, well, I happen to notice they talked about how important this is,
and they're not in the room,
but they didn't have the decency to stick around.
No,
of course not, because they got their moment in front of the cameras. I mean, listen to the racist rants of Jasmine Crockett, that lunatic from Texas. Yep. She needs to be censored by the House and removed by her fellow members of the House. That woman is dangerous and needs to be removed.
Big time.
A horrible race baiter and, disgusting. Speaking of race baiting, the reparations nonsense is back. The House bill being reintroduced. And the state of Washington has also introduced a bill to pay reparations. And I love some of the memes that are going around out there. There's one nice thing about social media. Sometimes they have some really funny things out there. So there's a picture of one of them, and it has California. And it says, let me get this straight. A state that never allowed slaves, California, is taking money from people who never owned slaves, white folks, to give to people who are never slaves, black folks. That's exactly what's going on here. Yep, reparations. So it's this whole stupid stuff has reared its ugly head again. And there's one more story. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, did Newsom decide against that because you realized the cost? It was astronomical, and the state couldn't afford it.
Well,
so he backtracked on it.
The law was signed. They just haven't executed, to my knowledge. So
yeah, because they can't afford it.
Yeah, but it's the law, so somebody could try it at some point. But before we get to the news at the top of the hour, one more thing. The effort by Doge to reduce the federal payroll by buyouts is running into a very odd situation. Cold War era filing system buried here in Pennsylvania in a mine north of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
More than 400 million federal employee records are stored in 22,000 filing cabinets. Can you imagine that? In an underground bunker. And people have to go and retrieve those files manually to sort this out. This is insane. That's crazy. All right, we'll be back after the news, folks. Stick around with the Common Sense Conservatives.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. The Trump administration has been subjected to serious pushback against a lot of its agenda. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt says a false narrative is being pushed.
District court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority. We believe these judges are acting as judicial activists rather than honest arbiters of the law.
Separately, 8 inspectors general Trump fired are suing to contest their dismissals. In Milwaukee, a police officer was seriously wounded when he was shot by a man with a semi-automatic rifle on the city's near west side. Another officer returned fire, killing the gunman. The government reports inflation rose to 3% on an annual basis in January. In another report, the government said egg prices hit a record high in the U.S. last month, $4.95 a dozen. This is ABC News. A 52-48 Senate vote confirmed Tulsi Gabbard's nomination as Director of National Intelligence.
The vote was nearly along party lines. Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell joined with Democrats in voting no. Tulsi Gabbard becomes the 8th person to lead the intelligence community in a role recommended by the 9/11 Commission. The former Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii has faced criticism for having views that counter the traditional orthodoxy of the national security establishment, including her opposition to certain government surveillance programs and her outspoken support for NSA leaker Edward Snowden.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy. A federal appeals court in New York City upheld the racketeering and sex trafficking convictions and the 30-year prison sentence meted out to former superstar R. Kelly. Separately, Sean Combs is suing NBC Universal over a documentary he says falsely accuses him of being a serial murderer who had sex with underage girls. Combs waiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. I'm Richard Cantu, ABC News.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices.
Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips?
But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active liver tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day active liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to new, NORDICUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you. New Nordic.
Lockdown Mayhem is here at Campers Inn RV. We slashed our already low sale prices by over $4 million on more than 350 RVs, and we're passing those savings directly on to you. Now's the perfect time to find your dream RV. Don't miss the new Transcend Explorer 24-foot travel trailer featuring bunks and a walk-around queen bed, yours for just $159 a month. Hurry into Campers Inn RV, the trusted home of the Integrity Price Promise, and take advantage of Markdown Mayhem before it's gone.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
Gate City Monument, folks. We're back once again. It's the next hour, second hour of the Common Sense Conservatives. In case you missed it in the first hour, breaking news this evening. And no, we're not going to talk about Donald Trump, but we are, by extension. The Attorney General Pam Bondi has filed a lawsuit against the state of New York, the governor, Kathy Hochul, and the rogue Attorney General Letitia James for their sanctuary city policies. They violate U.S. code. Each count is 5-year felony conviction, and they are in deep kimchi. Welcome back to the program. John, I know you're excited about the possibility of going after these sanctuary city officials who've been violating the Constitution, the Supremacy Clause, and behaving like total fools, undermine the safety of Americans. It doesn't matter how many women are raped, how many people are killed, how much crime happens, how many women are set on fire in subway trains by criminal alien invaders. They don't seem to care. It doesn't matter. Americans are the last thing on their mind. Meanwhile, they preach they're such wonderful people. They care about all these different groups of people. And it seems to me that that's just talking points. What do you say, John?
Either that or it's cognitive dissonance. I mean, they just don't know. They don't know what they want. All they know is that they want us to be communist, and they don't want that for the better or greater benefit of the American people. For sure, it's got to be something else. But I don't know. Maybe they're ego-driven that way, or just paid by George Soros, who robs the United States of funds and then pays them with them funds. I'm not sure.
Well, George Soros, I think he's going to live beyond 120. That guy's still around.
Yeah. Well, he's got a legacy coming up, and he's already filling his shoes.
Yeah, but it seems like Warren Buffett and George Soros are still with us after all this time. Their evil little stepchild is right behind them, Bill Gates, just about 20 years, though. So anyway, what about your thoughts on that, Todd? Here in the second hour, this lawsuit going after sanctuary cities. They already did it in Illinois, and now they're doing it in New York. Next should be San Francisco and California, I think.
Right. We should go after them. We shouldn't have sanctuary cities, sanctuary states for anything. We have a constitution in this country that protects everybody equally and evenly, and as it should. Law enforcement should be there to serve and protect everybody equally and evenly. Courts should be there to hear our grievances and, equally and evenly across the board. And I think for the most part, with all the flaws in our country, we have the right government, we have the right framework, we have the Constitution. We're not perfect. We're made up of human beings that make mistakes at the same time that have human desires of corruption and all this stuff. Those are the people we have to weed out. And on the left, there just seems to be far too much more corruption, that's baked into the equation, I guess. Those are the people we need to weed out from public office, period. And then we can go after the deep staters. That's where we need to focus on.
Well, I think you're right about that. That's a fair point. Earlier today, other breaking news that occurred about 6 or 7 hours ago now is that a federal judge has ruled that President Trump does, in fact, have the constitutional authority to freeze or limit certain types of federal funding. That means the White House can withhold funding without a district court's prior approval, which they tried to stop. They tried lawfare now he's back in office, and that's failing. Wow. So the White House has the ability to go forward with this funding freeze in a lot of the areas. And I think that caught a lot of people by surprise.
I think Trump has an excellent legal team. I think they know exactly what they're doing. I think they thought about this. It's like what somebody said, they're playing 4D chess here, while the left is playing checkers, still playing checkers.
That was me, 3D chess while they're playing checkers.
There you go. That's it.
But I sexed it up a little bit. I said that, Trump is playing 3D chess with Jean-Luc Picard, and they're playing checkers with Barney Fife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That about sums it up. They're still playing they're playing out of their same old handbook. And what they don't realize, people have wisened up through the years. Social media has been a gift this way. They've been able to educate one another, teach each other about what's going on in government, how these things operate, and the Marxist playbook, and so on and so forth. And the left is overacting like nobody knows, like we're all just stupid. And they're trying to play from this playbook, and they're failing because people like Trump getting ahead of them all the time. Trump is intelligent. He likes to dumb it down, but he's really, really smart, and he knows what he's doing. It's kind of like that when he attacks people, like say on Greenland, right? He throws it out there. It's a bit of seed planting, really, and he's tapping into people's emotions. But he's getting them to think about things ahead of time. So when he approaches it, they've already had thought about it and kind of come around already.
Yeah, I think Trump maybe put stuff out there, like let's say taking Greenland, if you will, or buying Greenland, if you will, as a starting point, and all of a sudden Denmark says, okay, we're going to spend $1 billion more in our defense every year. We're going to do this, this, this. He's going to be like, okay, no problem. We won't talk about buying Greenland for a while. Thank you. I mean, think about it. The Japanese prime minister came over here last week, and all of a sudden they're not buying U.S. steel. They're going to do $100 billion investment, amongst other things that they're doing within the economy.
Well, I thought it was $1 trillion. It's just
or
$100
trillion,
billion?
or $1 trillion, whatever. Well, it's a lot of money, investment, and they're not going to own it. I love that. The starting point was, we're going to do this. We're going to put some embargoes, or we're going to put some tariffs in place. Next thing you know, we got a heck of a lot. And what tariffs are going to be talked about were mutual tariffs, if you will. You put something on us, we'll put you on you. But it will work out in the end. And guess what? We got to win with Japan right there. And Japan got to win too.
You have to have trade balances.
Right.
And we haven't had those. We've had an imbalance of trade. Canada, we had a great balance, but a lot of countries, we've had a lot of imbalance, and it's not benefited us at all. And Trump has recognized that. And he's been saying it for 8 years now? He's been trying to tell people this, and they had been catching on until he comes up this term and pretty much threw it in their face and says, no, you got to see this.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. But this isn't the same Trump, and while the last 4 years, sadly, I don't want to say they're necessary, we wouldn't be where we are today if the previous 4 years hadn't happened. If the lawfare hadn't been practiced against Trump, he would have had a second administration. He would still talk about draining the swamp, and I don't think he ever would have gotten anywhere where he's at now. Now, he's got a plan, and he's executing it, and nobody's getting away. I mean, this is like a freight train that has no brakes that's coming down the hill, or a cable car in San Francisco. The next stop is Alcatraz, right across the bay. This train is going to hit the San Francisco Bay, and it's going to skip like a rock all the way to Alcatraz Island. That's exactly right. These people don't know what they're messing around with, man. Homie don't play that. And speaking about homie don't play that, Pete Hegseth, it took the vice president to make the deciding vote, but as Secretary of State, he's already gone to U.S. Africa, man. He's been there. He worked out with the guys there. Actually, I saw where he's working out. He worked out in that gym in Stuttgart. And he has ruled out NATO membership for Ukraine, and he's ruled out future aid for Ukraine. This is all going the way it's like somebody scripted my plan. That's what's happening here. It's about time. The grifter in chief, the gravy train is over, and the left is apoplectic about it. Remember all these losers with their little yellow and maize gold colored flags, Ukraine, their little pins everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. And they tried to, like a bunch of Karens tried to ostracize you if you weren't in the bag for Ukraine because Russia's so evil. Well, Russia may be evil, but that doesn't mean that Ukraine is the land of milk and honey, and they're sweet and lovely people, and they're just out Mormons prophesize and get you to join their church. No, this is an evil government, corrupt beyond belief.
Say what you will about Russia. At least they had, I'm going to do air quotes here for people listening. At least they had elections, unlike the Ukraine, which hasn't elections in some time. He suspended elections. He suspended religious freedom, freedom of speech, and all this stuff. But we want to talk about them as being free and having a democracy. I'm sorry, that's anti-democracy. It's anti-freedom.
Wait, that's exact democracy the left believes in.
Oh, I know. That's what they believe in. Absolutely. Yeah. We're at least in Russia, they had, I'll do air quotes again. At least they had elections, right?
So, you didn't get confetti that time.
No, I didn't. I didn't do the full. Let me see. No, didn't do it. Okay. Yeah. I got confetti the first time.
Like your phone has that filter or something like that. Is that what it is?
Yeah. If I do a thumbs up for a while, it'll sometimes pop. Yeah. See, there you go. See it?
You got an iPhone or something?
No, I just got the Apple MacBook here. I got, my phone's right here. I don't have to use my phone anymore.
I thought you were on a computer now, but they got that programmed into that too, huh?
I got my microphone set up right here. So yeah, I got my nice new computer, using it. I got a new router like we talked about last week. Everything's working fine, no problem. I'm feeling comfortable now. I'm finally in the 21st century.
Got to get that microphone just a little closer. I know you're a little shy of it, but
there we go.
Trump
How's
did
that?
have a conversation.
That's good.
That's a little better. Yeah.
There we go.
Trump
Perfect.
did have a conversation with Putin today, about an hour and a half conversation that went really well. Putin's like, yeah, I'm ready to settle this deal out. I'm getting sick and tired of this war anyway. I'm tired of beating up on Vladimir. And so, yeah, let's get this done. And I'm kind of ad-libbing here and giving you the short version. And here's Zelensky over here. He's kind of like, well, no, I want to do a land trade. And Putin's like, no, we're not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So if Trump brings this thing to an end, somehow with the left, he's going to be the worst person ever, a villain. He could even come in there and rebuild Ukraine, rebuild Kiev and their energy grid and all this other stuff bring in aid for school children, et cetera, he would still be vilified because he would do it in such a way that would be efficient, cost effective, and at the same time not allow for a lot of grift, if you will, within the system, which the left definitely loves. They love the grift and the graft, whatever you want to call it. They love that.
Grief grifters. I heard that one recently.
Oh,
That's a good
that
description right
is one.
there. They're grief grifters.
Clinton Foundation is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you also got the media here who spreads total nonsense. They're running around now writing news reports claiming that USAID has been suspended and people are dying as a consequence. So this is total lies.
No.
First off, it was the original executive order said for new funding commitments. So if you've already got a contract for something, it continues and through the fiscal year. And the second thing is that just to clarify that on the 28th of January, Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a waiver for humanitarian, for medical aid and administrative costs to cover medical aid and stuff like that. And so these people are just liars. I saw an NBC News report in which they purportedly interviewed a young lady, looks like a prostitute, at least the way she's dressed, on the streets of Johannesburg. And they said, where are you headed? I'm going to the USAID office. Nobody tells you that in Africa. Oh, I'm going to the, but anyway, it's all canned. I'm going to the USAID office. Oh, you can't go there. Why not? They're closed. What do you mean they're closed? Well, how am I getting my medication? As a total setup. These people aren't closed. These are total lies. It's amazing what the left will do to get their way, no matter how much it damages America and our reputation and our bank book. It's crazy, John. I mean, these people give away every penny we don't have.
You're right. That's funny because it wouldn't be called USAID, right? USAID is given funds. So in Africa, it would be some clinic or something that was getting funding from them, but they'd have their own name.
Yeah. Well, they actually do. I mean, back in the day, USAID actually ran programs and built dams and highways and schools and clinics and things like that, and bridges. But they realized that the model didn't work very well. So they basically became contracting officers, middlemen, and they arrange all these things. They facilitate all these things. They don't actually build anything. That's all done by third parties, and they pay them to do it. Unfortunately, in Africa, a lot of those third parties are Chinese construction companies. I know because I've been there. I've done that.
Yep.
I went to a work site in Francistown where we spent $500,000 building a counseling testing center for HIV. The Department of Defense did. And I went to the work site because I just arrived in country a short time before that, and I needed to go inspect it. It's a 4-hour drive. And I'm looking for the foreman because there's nobody working on the site. We're still paying people. It's almost complete, but there's still, like the wires are hanging out of the light sockets, the fixtures haven't been put on and the lights aren't put in. And there's other things, minor things, a couple doors haven't been put on. Some of the
Finished
offices.
work. Yeah. They had to
Finished work. Right. So the building's essentially done, but there's still work to be done and we're still paying for it. So I'm looking for it and there's nobody there. Finally, I find some Chinese national who's the supervisor. Well, he doesn't speak English, not a word, not even hello. He doesn't speak Tswana, which is the national language there in English. Yeah, so all he speaks is Mandarin. So I finally found some person who was from Botswana that knew enough Chinese, and he was kind of dismissive of us, ignoring us. And the guy said, "Well, this is the officer. They're the ones paying for the site." He told him in Mandarin, and a Chinese guy looked at me in uniform. He was like, and just walked away and wouldn't tell us anything. It took us a week to find out the information we needed about that site. It was just crazy. But they were the only ones around. And so we're spending money paying Chinese firms to build things in Africa when it should be Africans doing it. And we're spending the money there. It's just crazy. I mean, but these people say and do anything to keep the gravy train of USAID going. And it's unfortunate. A lot of misrepresentation, disinformation is being spread all over the place. Hey, I saw the press secretary, Karen Levin, again today. She's knocking them out of the park, man. So I think she's about the best press secretary we've ever had there.
Yeah, no, definitely, certainly in a long time or in my memory. I mean, Trump in his first administration had a couple of, go-getters, but I'm telling you, she is a breath of fresh air, and we need more younger people being involved, especially being involved in right-wing politics, if you will, on the right side. We need more people like that.
Well, they do have young Republicans or
no, but let me tell you, here's a problem though. We need to get the older folks to either accept them or for the younger folks to just kind of push them out of the way. Because if not, the older Republicans, the older right is going to sit there and hold up space for the longest time. And they don't like to allow new people in. They don't like new blood. I mean, I can tell you, I'm still, having retired in 2016, I still get it from some people in my own party here locally. I mean, it's pretty sad locally, and they know who the heck I am at this point, and they still kind of look at me as, oh, the young guy, he's trying to do this and that. It's like, I'm 47. When do I get to not be the young guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, who's not paid his dues? And they still look at young people that way. And you go to some Republican meetings. I'm not attacking anybody, but it looks like it's put in time, at the local rest home. And I'm not making fun. These people vote. They're out there.
Are you saying they're calling a lid?
But it's just, it's have the lunchtime meeting. Let's not do anything for younger folks to come in. Let's not do anything to have working class people come in. They do this once every so often where they have an evening meeting. One of the clubs will have like an evening meeting. That's about it. But for the most part, you have people that just want to keep others out. And it makes no sense. No recruiting, no outreach, no going out there and basically, knocking or knocking on doors, if you will, bringing people into the party. As long as enough people are voting for Republicans, they're okay with it. But that's only going to last for so long. People are going to start dying off, and it's like, where's the next generation? Any true Republican or conservative shouldn't be worried about the title themselves. They should be worried about what's in it for the next generation, not me and my own at this particular moment.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, but that's lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's just completely lost on them. By the way, that Trump meeting is apparently with Putin is apparently going to take place in Saudi Arabia. So neutral ground.
Well, they were talking about visiting each other's countries. Yeah, but that would make sense that they're gonna meet somewhere outside of the countries as far as negotiations. Bring in, I believe they're gonna bring Zelensky in too, right?
I didn't see that, but that would make sense. It'd probably be much more productive. Maybe not all in the same room, but at the same place, and then meet separately or something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. We'll see.
It's gonna be interesting. But his promises kept, as Caroline Levitt would say. Promises made, promises kept.
Well,
although he said
absolutely.
on day one, he did extend it to 100 days. I don't know what the reason was behind it, but
people losing their mind over Trump, egg prices. Oh, shut up! It wasn't Trump that killed 20 million egg-laying hens, and you don't get 20 million egg-laying hens back overnight.
No, but then at the same time, blame him for the helicopter crashing into the airplane, or the rescue aircraft.
They blame Sean Duffy. He hadn't been the Secretary of Transportation for 24 hours when that happened.
I never waste an opportunity, right? Never let a disaster go to waste.
That's not even enough time to screw up if you try to screw up.
Right. Even if there had been an executive order or a memo signed that would affect, say, the FAA or the air traffic controllers, it would take a couple of days before anything would ever be initially implemented, let alone implemented fully. It's going to take some time. So there's no way you could blame Sean Duffy or President Trump for what happened there. But the conspiracy theorists on the left, they think it's probably going to go against them. So therefore, they have to do everything they can to paint Trump as the bad guy, no matter what the facts actually end up being.
That's typical Democrat motive.
Of course. What's fascinating about this, guys, is that this stuff comes at such a quick pace, and the things that the left says are so egregious, they can't react, and it falls off the news cycle. Birthright citizenship, they're suing the Trump administration. Nobody's talking about that. That's the back burner now. They're going to continue with it. But the point is that he hits them with a dozen nails, and they can only respond to one. Meanwhile, all their libs are pinned down by the other 11 nails.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, Trump's sitting there. I'm being facetious, but he's using Twitter, typing it a mile a minute. Bing, bing, bing. Another thing. They're sitting here on typewriters trying to find where's the A key, where's the S. We got to respond to this. It's like you're using the wrong medium here, my friends. You've lost out a long time ago.
You're saying they're on snail mail.
They're on snail mail at this point, because somebody else owns X at this point.
I think they're on Pony Express, to be honest. So
you get USAID to set those up, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They ran the telegraph lines out there. That's how we got Pony Express. Yeah, no, it's really entertaining, gents. I mean, I get a kick out of watching what's going on here. Every day something new. But I mean, my point is that they respond to something, but then there's a dozen more things to respond to. They can't keep up with it. They weren't prepared for Donald Trump. They were certain they had him defeated with the lawfare. They were certain they had him defeated by bankrupting him. They were certain they had him defeated with, the assassination attempt. Not that I'm implying they were behind it. Excuse me.
Snort.
Somebody else did, though. I think somebody was connecting Biden to it or something.
And here's the thing.
Biden's that right.
Take any conspiracy out of it for just a second. They set up the situation to be basically the ground to be fertile for somebody to come out and to try to assassinate him. They've essentially condoned it with their lies, with their actions, and of course, the lawfare, et cetera, all the things that they've said about him, dehumanizing him. They've set it up so that way they can go after him and kill him. And if they do, it's cheer behind the scenes. Oh, let's be somber out in the public for a few days, and now all of a sudden they're back to the same rhetoric anyway. So they never meant any of it anyway. Any of the somber rhetoric, yeah.
So you're saying behind the scenes, it's all diabolical laughter.
Oh yeah, it's evil.
Well, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, on the scene, it's always diabolical left. These people are just there.
Yeah.
I honestly think that people that are on the left of the political spectrum, something happened to them. They were bullied, or they fell down a flight of stairs, or they had a bad episode with shrooms, or maybe
Right.
somebody dropped LSD in their coffee or something like that. There's clearly something mentally wrong with most of these people in the political left, and I'm going to take a lot of flack for that, but I don't care. Prove me wrong. I mean,
No, there is.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Actually,
you on?
regarding what you're saying, I've noticed in the political left, there's a lot of people in professions, doctors and lawyers,
course. Yeah.
and pretty high professions. And I wonder, how do people
Generals.
so intelligent get involved
Yeah.
in something so idiotic?
Well, I have a theory for this, guys, and here's how it goes. A lot of these people that do this, not exclusive, but a lot of them, well, they either start early in life, and that's who they are the whole way through, with the purple and pink hair and the nose rings and the tattoos in odd places at university. But whether they start the way or not, or they get there later in life, they all tend to be overwhelmingly wealthy, privileged, elite people who have lots of time on their hands and are malcontents for whatever reason. Lots of different reasons given, but there seems to be a trend. And as we saw from that video, at least that group, apparently a prerequisite means you have to be butt ugly to be part of that group.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or have some sort of crazy eye with weird teeth. They're all trying to date me, AOC, right?
Yes,
that,
thank
that,
you.
That eye looks.
I really love your unibrow. It's sexy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, just psychotic. And then she tries to look at the camera. That one eye just kind of goes off, and it's like, there's something just not right with you here. Sorry, Toots. I don't want to date you. You're crazy. You got crazy eye. Not crazy eyes. Crazy eye. Yeah, she has crazy eye, not crazy eyes.
I had noticed that. I guess I don't spend any time looking at her image.
Oh yeah, look at her whenever she's trying to look right at the camera.
Oh,
that
one, John.
One eye kind of goes off to the right just a little. I'm not making fun of people who have an eye that skews. That's fine, but don't sit there and try to pretend like you're the best thing that's out there, and we all want to date you. And you come looking like crazy ass killer. You know what I mean?
But when her eye does that, it looks like her brain's revolting on her and trying to think of a different answer over here. That's what it looks like. Yeah, but it's look, John. I mean, come on, don't you know we all want to date AOC? She's the hottest thing since Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman.
Well, you had to fall in love when she was wearing the Eat the Rich dress. I mean, that was way more than her salary.
Okay, I guess if we've been eating the rich, that might explain my weight gain. I didn't know we were eating the rich. Oh my goodness! Look, it's a crazy world, and we're in it, and we are in for a heck of a ride here. We are just a few weeks into the Trump administration, and the hits just keep coming, ladies and gentlemen. In case you missed it tonight, the Trump administration will be able to move forward with its retrenchment program for federal employees, offering them a buyout. And the federal judges said yes, you continue that after it was blocked. Until today. It was blocked on Friday, and now it's reopened again. So that's out there. Donald Trump's Justice Department under Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has filed a lawsuit against the state of New York, the governor, Kathy Hochul, and the Attorney General, Letitia James, to sue them for their support and their advocacy and their actions to protect sanctuary cities and the state. And it's not going to end well for them. Not going to end well for them.
And he removed all the liberal left out of the military with the military academy. Right. Yeah. He was one of them. They were on some sort of board or council or something. And he was like, we're getting this DEI crap right out of our military right now. Removed everybody on the left right out of it.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm shocked that the unemployment rate actually went down slightly, given all the leftists losing their jobs in the federal government this past month. maybe it'll spike in March. It's a lot of people losing their jobs, man. There's only so many think tanks out there you can go work for. So I don't know what they're all going to do. Some of them don't have any real skills. They just have these think tank skills.
So basically what he's doing is he's cutting the bloat. So back in the 1990s, Clinton supposedly took and was cutting the bloat. He was cutting down on he went from like 2.some odd million government employees to 1.75 million.
No, we went down to 1.3 at one point. Remember Graham Rubman Hollins?
Well, what they didn't tell you was he was contracting or outsourcing the work to contractors. So instead of cutting the bloat, he increased the bloat. And so here comes Trump. He's like, nope, we're going to take a hatchet to this. We're going to cut this stuff loose. We're done. We're not spending money where we don't need to spend money. We're going to bring it down to where it's reasonably spent, and we're going to work on our national debt.
Right. There you go. Yeah. The thing is with whenever you bring in contractors, you end up inevitably finding one more contract for them to take on. you don't have the long-term care with regards to pension, etc. So you think, oh, we're saving some money in the long run, but the reality is you continue to find contracts for them to basically bid on, and you're just doling out money after money, you know. So you really, I think it's a wash in the long run with the money you spend on contractors.
Absolutely. They what was it? Oh, they're complaining, liberal left complaining that Doge has spent $7 million. My God, they're wasting money over there. It's like, wait a minute, they spent $7 million, but saved us billions amongst billions amongst billions of dollars. You're complaining about this? I'd gladly spend $7 million to save billions of dollars. I mean, that's how it works.
No, it does. So, you know, it's Trump wants Greenland, but apparently there's a satirical petition online to get Denmark to buy California. It has 200,000 signatures.
All right.
I'd like to add my name to that list to let Denmark buy California. Just say, let's buy California from Donald Trump. Yes, you heard it right. California could be ours, and we need your help. We need $1 trillion to buy California.
So what is this? Somebody, a distant relative of J.D. Vance, has been denied a heart transplant because she was not vaccinated for COVID-19.
That stuff is still going on?
Apparently.
Those people need to be charged with a crime, endangering lives. And so it's crazy.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You would think that that wouldn't be an issue right now, especially under this Well, no, the left is still trying to play their tactics. They're still trying to play their games. I don't understand. You know, it's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath, right? I mean, you're supposed to be putting people's lives and value human beings before profit, before wealth, before yourself. And they don't do that anymore. It's all about political agendas. So you're going to deny this little girl a heart transplant, which might extend her life for 20, 30, 40 years. Who knows how long? Give her some kind of life. And I mean, she's only 12. You know, and you're going to do that because she didn't get a COVID vaccine shot. She probably couldn't. She was probably advised, more than likely, she had a heart problem. Her doctors advised her against it. And I know a lot of people, I've heard them talk about where their doctors have advised them against taking COVID-19 because they had medical issues. And they didn't know with the mRNA, they really didn't know what the outcome was going to be. So they said, you have an existing health condition. Don't put something in your body that might compromise it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a big discussion, but there was no empathy for people like that. You know, it's like the people who, because of respiratory issues like CPOD or other asthma and things like that, weren't supposed to be wearing masks. Instead, they wear facial shields, and people discriminated and treated them poorly for wearing facial shields because all these Karens thought they knew better. Suddenly, they're all experts in epidemiology. It just kills me when something like this happens. This was one of the greatest crimes perpetuated against humanity since the Khmer Rouge. And since after that, the Rwanda genocide. This is just absolutely horrible what happened with this COVID scam around the world. And we're still living with the effects of it. We're going to have a generation of psychopaths because they didn't adapt well to interact with other kids in school, being kept out of school at a critical age. We're going to have lifelong learning shortfalls for that cohort of children who are entering school first and second grade, not learning how to read properly and to socialize properly for a couple of years. And you can't make that gap up. There's a reason we send kids to school at the time we do, because that's when the brains are malleable. That's when they're adaptable. That's when they have sufficient discipline that you can actually control them. And so by the time they came back to school, all kinds of disciplinary problems are taking place and education issues that simply can't be overcome with a wand. They're going to have to do something. Guys, did you see the that submersible, that one from that rich company, the Ocean Gate?
Ocean Gate, yeah.
Did they apparently captured a acoustic recorder 900 miles from where it imploded, and that sound carried across, and it is eerie. It is haunting. You can listen to this. The Coast Guard has released a 23-second video or audio tape of what this was, and you hear this thing, the sound. There was a recorder on, and then the actual implosion. You can hear the implosion of the craft from the moment they died. It's creepy. It's eerie. They were trying to go down, of course, to see the Titanic, and this thing. Remember that imploded. They all got sucked out.
Oh yeah. The thing is, you know, once it happened, it was basically near instantaneous how quick it happened.
Oh, they didn't know. They didn't feel it. They were pieces of something before they even knew it happened. Yep.
Yeah, they were atomized essentially. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good way of putting it.
No,
but yeah,
really,
that kind of pressure. That's exactly what happened.
To
near
basically. Yeah, to paste or what's even less than that in most cases because of how much pressure that is. I mean, Jack didn't survive. I can tell you that.
No.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that any parts of the vessel actually survived. Parts of it are on the bottom of the ocean. I don't know if they've ever covered all that stuff.
Yeah, but there's been pictures since then of some of those
Yeah.
pieces down there in that debris field. Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty
Unbelievable.
scary. I mean, I like adventure, but not that kind of adventure. I mean,
No,
I know that
no.
pressure from all that weight, from all that water above
Well,
you. It's insane.
It's been a proven vessel up until that point.
No,
The
they had
problem
lots of
was
problems with
is
it.
people weren't doing their proper inspections and stuff on to make sure.
Well, yeah,
all going
it
down,
was
you know?
it was almost essentially like a homemade job, because there was no
Yeah.
real governing body that did any
That was
inspections
part of
on
the
it.
problem. It wasn't
Yeah.
like the Federal Aviation Administration that oversees, aircraft and and radar systems. That stuff's inspected, it's checked. This
Yeah.
thing eluded that.
Yeah, and
The
James
government,
can't.
let's not give the government too much credit.
No. We're just saying
Self-certification actually is a thing with the United States government.
Yeah, well, we're just saying as an example, there was no other body that.
I know
looked
what
at
you
it.
mean.
Like James Cameron as an example, director of Titanic and other movies. He says, he has people that actually inspect his, that he doesn't put any pressure on them at all. It's if they say it's not safe, he doesn't go down with it. Until it's made safe by these bodies that he goes through to certify his stuff. And I'm not trying to speak for this guy, but basically listen to him talk about it. He says if they say it's unsafe, he's not getting in it. He's not going to use it. He'll replace it, whatever he has to do. These guys weren't doing that. They were going down multiple times,
right?
Well past whatever the time limit would be to use something like that.
So
use it 2 or 3 times, take it apart, inspect it, rebuild it, whatever you got to do. But don't keep using it over and over, trying to squeeze a penny out of something, or you'll be squeezed out.
There's this thing called metal fatigue.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
that's what happened. The thing became more and more fatigued over time with all that atmospheric pressure on it,
Right.
and they weren't inspecting it properly. They
No.
might have found micro fractures and stuff in it if they had, and said, "Whoa, we got to build a new one, or we got to reinforce it, or they might have re-engineered it." But because they didn't do their inspections, it cost people their lives.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the concerns with aircraft. Commercial aircraft is metal fatigue is an issue, and
Yep.
then I think some of us that weren't engineers were a little concerned when the Boeing Dreamliner, the 787, was introduced and it was discussed there would be a composite fiber fuselage. I'm like, fiberglass? But
Yeah.
I've flown on the Dreamliner. It's one of the most enjoyable consumer experiences I've ever had flying in an aircraft. The 747 is about the best I've ever had, but the 787 is amazing. It's amazing for passengers. It's really nice, depending on how many seats they can figure in it.
Right.
It's really nice, but that's got a carbon fiber composite fuselage on it, which is interesting. But it really improves fuel efficiency, and apparently, I think it even makes the aircraft more maneuverable, if I'm not mistaken.
Carbon fiber, I think, is supposed to be very, very durable. In some cases, more so than, I guess, certain gauges of steel and stuff, right?
I'll take their word for it. I know I fly in them. It works.
Can't make that claim, but carbon fiber is something else.
All right, so let me do a poll, gents. Let me do a poll. Is it the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America?
Oh, it's a Gulf of America in the United States of America for sure.
Yeah. I don't care one way or another. It's going to take me a long time before I start saying Gulf of America, just because I'm not used to saying Gulf of America or America, however you want to say it.
Well, I'm asking because Brian Stelter has an article on the CNN site, because today was the second day in a row that the White House banned an Associated Press reporter because they were calling it the Gulf of Mexico.
That might be a little harsh, but unless he's being facetious, but intentionally doing it. But
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit much, but so they're not happy about this because White House broke decades of precedent and blocked Associated Press reporters from attending 2 of President Trump's media sessions. The AP said it was because they were blocked because they hadn't changed their style book entry for the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. Look, I mean, people need to get over themselves. I'm not a fan of calling it the Gulf of America. I would have called it the Gulf of the Americas, because North, Central, and Latin America, South America, surrounded on 3 sides. I mean, but we have precedents for this. It's the Persian Gulf to us and to Iran, but it's the Arabian Gulf to Saudi Arabia and the Arab states there. I mean, lots of people call things different things. So, Cape Verde is what a lot of people call that. And now they've used the official Portuguese name Cabo Verde, but most of us still call it Cape Verde. You have the Ivory Coast in West Africa, which is English. but the actual name is Côte d'Ivoire. And most people, even French, oftentimes when talking to people in English, say Ivory Coast, not Côte d'Ivoire. So Gulf of America, Gulf of Schmerica, Gulf of Mexico, who cares? Gulf of Tacos, I don't really care. But I do think that the Gulf of the Americas would have been a better choice, but that's just my preference.
Yeah, I think so. And you could have got a diplomatic win out of that, be like, we're going to name it for all of the Americas, Canada all the way down to the, Chile.
No, man, it's put America first, baby. No, it's Gulf of America. That's it.
Yeah, which is fine, but I think if you wanted a diplomatic win, you could have done Gulf of Americas. I think that sounds a lot better.
Yeah, I don't think Trump plays that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to rely on other countries, for trade, at some point. I mean, we do.
I don't know the history. Maybe Chris, you know it because you like history so much. But was there a thing about territory with the Gulf of Mexico? As far as I know, it's international waters after a 12-mile point. But was there a thing about territories and Mexico actually lost that body of water to the United States? Or I've been reading something about this, but I don't know the details.
Not familiar with that story. That is interesting. I wonder if that's the case, but no, I'm not.
It could be fabricated nonsense on social media.
Oh, it could be real. It could be real. But I mean, whatever the case is, what they call the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, all I know is that poor R. Kelly, the appeals court upheld his conviction of 30-year prison term.
Good deal. There's a few others that need to be 30 years or more easily.
So I'm reading. Speaking of news items, I'm reading that Epstein's list is going to be declassified.
Well, how much of it would be redacted?
Yeah,
well,
and how much
every name.
And how many names do we not know that, we suspect so many names. We know some names that are on there. I mean, how many names that are going to be shocking at this point, Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to them.
Well, that's the issue because the question
will happen.
It was a pleasure island, right? It doesn't mean everybody was engaged into illicit behaviors. It doesn't mean people were there. People could have been there at the swimming pool and the bar and just socializing with friends and associates that they knew. They never even had any knowledge of what was going on in the dungeon or whatever you want.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not defending anybody for sure that hung out with this guy or did anything on that island, but these nefarious things that you talk about doesn't necessarily have to be going on every single time, right? That's a possibility.
Or on the surface.
Sure, but a lot of these people, some of these people are guilty of a lot of this stuff. It'll go unpunished, and they'll go. They'll continue to get awards in life and all this stuff. They'll continue to make money, and you'll see them in social media. You'll see them on television. These people aren't going to suffer much of anything. Maybe a slap on the wrist, unless there's something truly egregious that's out there. I don't see really anything happen to them because too many people in positions of power and authority are going to remain there. And they're going to be protected one way or another. And this is people on the right or the left. It's just going to happen.
What you might get is those people that were there and knew things or witnessed things but couldn't say, start coming forward now and start spilling the beans on these people. You might get that.
That would be nice.
Of course, that might be just hearsay and it's going to create more confusion. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Unless there's any real true court case, I don't see anything happening. And most any victims, I mean, where are they going to go for justice? I mean, the court's not going to hear anything. And if anybody sues at this point, they're going to say statute of limitation, or they're not going to have enough money to actually go after somebody.
I don't know. Is there a statute of limitations on human trafficking?
No, I don't know. I'm sure there's statutes of limitations almost everything except for capital crimes, right? I mean, there just is, I'm not defending Epstein. I'm just saying at this point, if nothing has happened to most of these people, what's going to happen to them at this point? I mean, positions of power and authority, the rich, the elite, I hate to be on that side of, the rich get richer and so on, but this is what's just going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to any of these folks.
You're the young guy here, Todd. Your cynicism is just it's taking away my buzz, man. It's taking away my buzz.
Well, we've seen this too many times. These people continue to skate through, like Bill Clinton. Depends on what the definition of is. And he got away with it. Yeah. Come on now. I got another thumbs up there on my screen.
Yeah, you did.
All right. Thanks, Bill Clinton.
Guys, to our audience orbiting the Earth right now, that would be astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. We welcome you to the program tonight, and I have good news for you. Despite Boeing's failure and abandoning you in space on your departure, flying up to the International Space Station on the 5th of June last year for an 8-day tour, On March 12th, you're going to be rescued by none other than Elon Musk and SpaceX. They'll be coming to collect you, and we'll welcome you back to Earth. Your 8-day tour turned into quite the adventure there. I'd recommend you get some spine decompression because you probably shrank about 2 or 3 inches while you're in space. So
yeah, and then of course Doge is going to immediately fire you upon your return. Just so everybody, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, they're going to disband. They're going to disband the Peace Corps and the Consumer Financial Protection Agency and NASA and
All right.
EPA, the Department of Education. My goodness!
At this point, there's a lot of those agencies and departments you name that we could honestly get rid of without a doubt and not miss a beat. I'll be honest with you. And we're getting to the point where I think I would agree with getting rid of NASA if we had an alternative that was less costly. Private sector, by all means, as long as we could have access to it to be able to do what we need to from a defense standpoint, satellites, this and that, by all means, I think the exploration should be probably done for the private sector. They'll be able to do it more efficiently and more cost effective. Now I got fireworks going off, so I must be right. I love it.
Oh boy, I got an argument with my wife about that. The man's always right.
Wow. Don't never tell her a man is talking, though. You'll get in trouble.
Oh, I don't want. She want to hear that.
All right.
Well, Airbus is going to build their newer aircraft with this double-decker layered seats. It's insane to add more seats to these planes. They say it's going to give more legroom, but I'm not really sure how that works out unless you're on the lower level. The topper level.
They're gonna what, stagger them above each other so they're overlapping in some sort of way.
It's kind of like they undulate. Like there's a high one, then there's a low one, then a high one, a low one, and it's just crazy. There's straight across. I'm looking at a photograph of it, and the upper level, you're not going to be legroom because you have a lot. You have a lot of chest space because there's no one in front of you. It's a big open space. It goes way up. And the people below you are so far below, you won't even see their head. You'll see the next row, which is essentially 2 rows ahead of you. So it'll look quite spacious, but you won't have any legroom. Whereas in the bottom, you'll have legroom because it goes under the chairs in front of you to the floor, but you'll have a chair back in your face. It's insane.
Interesting.
They're always trying to jam more people in these planes. It's frustrating, annoying.
Sardines, man.
Well, yeah, I miss the days back in the day when airlines cared about you. If you're a little kid, they gave you little metal wings on the plane and they treated you well. And you got actual dishes and silverware they brought out to you on flights and stuff like that, even in economy. Now, man, you got to fight to rip the plastic open. You knock your little tiny Coke all over the place. And you got people who think that, the entire row is theirs. And anyway,
it's like riding the bus. Is that what you're saying?
It's a bus you can get up and get off the damn thing. I can't get off just in midair. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's, unless I'm on, executive decision with Kurt Russell and I want to break it away.
Right.
But,
I usually do 3-hour flights. I've done a 5-hour flight. My policy is sit down, don't move until the plane stops,
it doesn't work that doesn't work on a 17.5-hour flight there, John.
No, I imagine you better get up and move them legs around if you're on that long of a flight. You're going to need to.
A short flight for me is 5 or 6 hours. That's a short flight. Anything less than that is like, did I even get on the plane? That's why I like flying the States because it doesn't take long to get anywhere. It's only 3 hours to the West Coast,
So you don't like wear yourself down and you're like exhausted when you get on the plane. So you just knock out and sleep at least 8 to 9 hours of that.
It doesn't matter. I usually work. I would get a little bit of sleep on the plane, but it's just so uncomfortable. There's no legroom. My hips are jammed, and that's exacerbated my hip injury. I got off a flight coming back a couple years ago from South Africa, and because the person in front of me jammed their seat in my face, and I couldn't move my seat, I couldn't walk. I literally couldn't walk. I got back, and I wasn't hurting initially, but I damaged the muscle in my back, injured it there, but didn't feel the pain till the next day. And then I sat here for 2 weeks in agony. Every time my chest would heave, I would have sharp pains in lower back. And what happens, because it was messed up on the left side, I wound up shifting off of it, and I injured the right side in the same fashion, just like I did on the flight. So I finally went and got some of those lidocaine patches after suffering for almost 2 weeks in agony every day. And the lidocaine patches were amazing. They took the pain away, and the muscle was able to heal and me move without feeling the agonizing pain. So I do recommend those. It's nice that you can get lidocaine over the counter because that was a controlled substance for a long time. And it does. In fact, I was looking yesterday. I've got boxes of that stuff still here. I might just get one of those out just for old times' sake. It felt good.
We got an icy hot junkie over here. Watch out.
Well, you call it like it is, anyway. But gosh,
I've been in those positions. I know back pain, man. It's not good, especially when you got to work.
Well, I mean, back pain is not something I'm accustomed to. The only time I ever have back difficulties if I don't exercise regularly. Then I'm tall, so the muscles at the bottom of my back, if they're not exercised regularly, they get weak, and I get a little bit of pain there, and it's difficult to sleep, and I wake up. But as long as I get to exercise, and I don't have back issues. But this was an injury, and I exacerbated it, so it was horrible. I'll never forget that. I'd have to like cough, and all the pain is shot. So yep, I don't miss that. But okay, next week, any predictions? Will we invade Greenland? Will we invade Gaza? Will we be
We're not
eating the
invading,
dogs?
that's for sure.
Will we be eating the cats?
No, but I think he's going to continue to win. I hope so. But at some point the left has got to completely implode. But if not, we're going to continue to go through the next 4 years, lawsuit after lawsuit, as long as they got some money. More of the same stuff on the mainstream media. The liberal media, CNN especially. And we're going to get to the end of this, and it's like, what's going to have been accomplished, for the next 4 years. We've got to push the left completely off to the side. Don't worry about anything that they're going to do. And at some point, they're going to tire themselves out, or they're just going to die out. Because I've seen all the young people that are trying to come into the right-wing movements, but we got to have the right-wing Republicans to welcome young blood in, and at some point, get off the pot, make room for somebody else, move on.
Well, I think it's a fair statement to say, but I mean that's But I'm the kind of person that thinks it doesn't matter. You can be 90 and contribute as long as you've got good ideas, as long as you can move with
No,
the times.
I agree with you, but you got to think about how many good ideas does some of these old timers that's been hanging around Congress or our state legislatures, even local governments for decades, and they've run out of ideas a long time ago. But at this point, they're just holding spots because it's a matter of who they are, and it's a matter about the money, but it's not about the ideas and getting things done anymore for a lot of people.
Well, we've kind of learned that they were getting rich off their positions, and they were letting go of that.
Sure, absolutely, the cash cow.
So, and they learned how the system works, and how to survive in it. So you're right. You got the people who are just seat holders in there, and that's why a lot of people want term limits. I'm not a big fan of term limits myself. My idea is what they've always said is vote them out. But as long as they're cheating elections, how are you going to vote them out?
Right, and the way. Go ahead, Colonel.
I said, but even if they don't cheat elections, the power of incumbency is almost impossible to overcome.
And the money
really
involved.
is. Yeah, because the incumbency gets you money too.
Exactly.
Mere fact that you're there, but it's almost impossible to defeat somebody in office unless they've done something really egregious. Most people will win more often than not in a vacant seat against a competitor in the opposite party, or there'll be occasionally where some people are swept in just because there's so much anger and there's a big change and you have a big swing in the House or something like that, or on the state legislature. But once somebody's in office, it's almost impossible to dislodge them, and that's why you get swamp creatures like Strom Thurmond, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, these people are 8,000 years old. I mean, you think that they would give their pacemakers a break and go home.
Yeah, the thing about it is too, what we're looking at, they spend 70% of their time in office campaigning. They spend more time campaigning than they do actually doing the people's work.
Certainly those in the federal legislature, in the House of Representatives, because you only serve for 2 years and you got to start making money as soon as you get there. That's why it's such I think it's just a nasty thing to be involved in. But I mean, we need people in politics. The best you can hope for, I guess, is, right, moral and just people who behave in the correct fashion. But you're not always going to get that. Not always going to get that. So what do you say about that? You got to go with the punches and take it as best you can there. But we got another week coming here, and the astronauts 1 week closer to coming home.
when are they going to send a SpaceX up there to grab those guys?
It's supposed to get them on March 12th or launch on March 12th. If it launched on the 12th, they'll get on the 13th. It's a day or so to get there, but still, I mean, they got there in June, so they've been just July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February,
and they're going to have
10 months.
Right. Yeah. And I wonder how many resupplies have went up there, because I know they're going to probably have to resupply these guys with this mission as well. Right. Because
but I mean, it's not like they can have 5 guys, or Papa John's, it's green eggs and ham every day. It gets kind of old.
Yeah. And plus you think about it, you had those 2 extra mouths to feed. It's like you weren't planning for that. I know they have a little bit of leeway in case something happens up there, but at some point those supplies are going to dwindle. Right.
Yeah. And look, I don't mind going to space, but the International Space Station is old. It's been there a long time. And I mean, that thing is held together with baling twine and chicken wire. I mean, really, it's I've seen some of the stuff, the scientific reports about the status and health of the International Space Station. And 'cause it's been up there so long, it's been hit by micrometeorites, and which weaken the integrity. I mean, one day it's going to be like the landing gear on that plane in Scottsdale. Did you see that? Did you see that crash? Oh my goodness. The plane landed, John, in Scottsdale. It was Vince, what's the guy from Motley Crue? Vince Neil?
Vince Neil's one. One
Vince
Motley
Neil
Crue
from
guy.
Motley Crue. Yeah, he's a Motley Crue. It was his jet. He wasn't on the jet, but his jet landed with some of his people on it, and the right or the left landing gear snapped off. And the plane just started, it was going full speed when it hit, because that's when it happened. And it snapped off, and it went sliding off the runway onto the grass next to the apron on the side there. And there was a big Gulf Stream down there. And it was the park there on the side, and there was no one in it. You could see that they had the door open, a little, the ramp to get up to it. But this thing hit it head on. The pilot died, and 8 people were injured. Pretty scary. Now so we got Sean Duffy. He's got the midair collision with the Black Hawk and the American Airlines flight out of Wichita. Then he's got the plane. It was like a freaking Scud missile going straight to the ground. The medevac.
Yeah, that was wild.
And now he's got this one with landing strut loss. And then last year we had the freaking door blow off of an Alaska Airlines flight. I mean, somebody needs to start taking this aviation safety a little more seriously here. I mean, I'm not a person afraid of flying, and I believe it is the safest form of transportation.
Right.
But still, this is getting a little bit spicy out there.
Oh, absolutely. And then think about the little Cessna that crashed in Alaska just the past week or so. That happened too.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, that does happen. But I mean, these are, I mean, and let's see, of the three we're talking about, they were all near airports. The flight from Philadelphia had just left the airport, barely got airborne, catastrophic failure, apparently. Haven't heard any updates on that. The other was a midair collision as the plane was landing at Reagan National. And then this one here was one landing. So, man, I tell you, I tell people, and I told my audience, I said, listen, when the pilots and the crew up front tell you to sit down and buckle up, because this is what always does it for me. Todd, John, do you remember back in the day, there was, I think in the 1980s, Hawaiian Airlines, where the side of the airplane
blew out. Yeah.
And it blew out, and it sucked a flight attendant and one passenger or something like that, maybe a flight attendant out. And they flew that plane back and landed with all those people strapped in with oxygen masks hanging out.
Yeah.
And whenever they say when you're seated, put your seatbelt on, because of that, I've always worn my seatbelt on a flight, because you don't know what's going to happen.
It's not very common that a side of the fuselage rips open and the decompression sucks people out. However, you do have turbulence, and people have, not wearing their seatbelts, have bounced up into the ceiling of the plane and cracked their heads open. That's primarily the reason why you wear your seatbelt, and you should always have it on. Even if it's a little loose, always have it on while you're in flight, because of that reason.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'd imagine what you described, it might have been very, very scary for about 200 people.
Oh yeah, and it was a while before they landed. It was a while for that, and then they're flying with that. But that was actually metal fatigue. Imagine that. We were talking about metal fatigue earlier.
Right.
Look. My luck. I can't win the lottery, but I'll be on the plane when the side of the damn fuselage blows off. So I will wear my seatbelt. Right.
Right. And there was the interviews. I remember watching shows and documentaries about that. They interviewed a guy who was sitting right there next to it, had his seatbelt on. He's like, if I didn't have my seatbelt on, I was a dead man. Yeah, and he was right. That's true.
Yeah, we'd have been sucked out too. Can you imagine?
Absolutely.
And you don't even know it. She's probably walking back to give somebody something, the flight attendant, and right out of the plane. And then she didn't die instantly, but she's probably like freaking out, falling out of the sky. Good gosh, what a horror.
Absolutely, or died of some heart attack. Because it was so quick. It just boom, your system shocks and you're done.
Oof. And also at that altitude, she might have frozen to death.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Yeah,
I was gonna say she was probably very hypothermic before.
Yeah,
the end came, but
whatever happened, it's just a terrible situation. So yeah. But I mean, Duffy's got his hands full at the FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board. We're going to find out what happened in that midair collision, and I'll bet you we're going to find out that they were looking at the wrong aircraft, and the tower was negligent and not having enough people there, and not being affirmative in what had to be done. Rather than they should have been asking in such a tight, narrow, confined airspace. They should have been directing, and we're going to find that's the problem, I suspect. Then, but it's unfortunate. It doesn't change anything. 67 people are dead, and people are afraid of aviation safety at the moment. So,
yep, absolutely.
It's still the safest way to travel. It is. But it is concerning, all these things that have happened. But you remember back in the late 1970s, early 1980s with the DC-10s. And the engines
Oh yeah, the engines just fell off. Yeah.
It turned out to be it was how they were remounting the engines or something with the forklifts. They had weak mounts or something like that. They were causing damage, structural damage, when they were mounting the engines on the planes, and so that's why it was happening. So once they learned,
Yep.
what they
I
were
think
doing
one of
wrong.
those really horrific situations, one of the worst, was at Midway Airport in Chicago, wasn't it? I think that's where that happened with the DC-10. Yeah, and of course, McDonnell Douglas doesn't exist anymore. It's part of Boeing. They bought it out. So that's just
That's right.
Yep. So we really only have two major companies. All right. We'll see you, Airbus in Europe, Boeing here, and then, of course, Embraer down in Brazil. We'll catch you next week here on the Common Sense Conservatives, folks. Stay safe. It's going to get spicy out there as the Trumpster keeps the world alive. Cheers, everybody.